Hello everyone, FPL Wrapped here and welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. In today's video, which has kindly been sponsored by Pouch, more on that later, we're going to discuss how my team is currently set up for Game Week 2 and talk about any possible transfers that I could make. If you are enjoying the content here on this channel, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. But without further ado, let's jump into today's video. So guys, before we move on to looking at Game Week 2 and how my team is currently set up, just very quickly, we're going to review Game Week 1. I actually had a very good first game week, and I had the same last season as well. I seemed to do quite well in Game Week 1, which I would hope, considering the amount of hours I put into researching and creating content around sort of pre-season and building the best possible Game Week 1 team. I managed to pick up 79 points. Do let me know down below in the comments how many points did you score in Game Week 1. Very interested to see how you got off to the start for your season. But I'm very, very happy with that. It gave me an overall rank and a game week rank of about 311k, so I'm pretty happy with that. Listen, rank doesn't matter at the moment anyway. Until about Game Week 12, Game Week 14, I don't pay much attention to it. It's very volatile. If I'd have scored something like 73, 74 points, I'd be ranked a million. So don't stress too much about rank for at least another 5 to 10 game weeks, potentially even more than that. When I look at my team and why it went well for me and what went well with my team, it was pretty much the defense, right? Trent was the only disappointing one, but pretty much everyone owned Trent and a lot of people own Robbo. So to be honest, I wasn't too dissatisfied when Liverpool conceded, because a lot of people and a lot of managers in and around me have got Trent and Robertson. So I didn't mind that too much. And then Ramsdale, Trippier, James and Cancelo all picking up clean sheets. Trippier, James and Cancelo getting 7 pointers. So just between those guys there, I got 27 points. So I think that was where I maybe skipped ahead of a couple of people around me and those managers around me, just due to the fact that my defense did very well for me this week. And don't worry, it won't do well for me every single week. With the midfield, sort of a mixed bag there. We've got Bailey and Diaz both getting 2 pointers, which was slightly disappointing, but Martinelli getting a goal on Friday Night Football and outscoring Saka was really nice. And of course, Mr. Reliable getting another 12 pointer there, 24 points for captaincy. And you just know you can rely on Salah for captaincy, which we will discuss when we head into Game Week 2. Jesus didn't deliver, but we all own Jesus anyway, or most of us own Jesus. So I don't really care too much about that. And when I look at the fixtures ahead for Jesus, I'm pretty sure I'll be keeping him, which again we'll discuss in the next section. And then the biggest score of the game week in my team was Erling Haaland picking up 13 points. He would have actually been the best captaincy shout. He got a brace, looks like he's on penalties. Absolutely outstanding performance. He got an XGI of 2. So his expected goal involvement was actually 2, which is remarkably good. He picked up over an expected goal involvement of over 1.5 in the Community Shield as well. So he's delivering excellent underlying numbers. He's looking absolutely fantastic. He looks fairly nailed on. He looks like everything we thought he would be and more for FPL. On the bench, not many points, which is good, I guess. But when I want to call on them, I need them to be doing a little bit better. Andreas did look absolutely fine, absolutely amazing for 4.5 million. Williams didn't look too bad, and Archer ended up getting about 8 minutes off the bench. But generally, really happy with Game Week 1. Like I said, 79 points overall. Overall rank of about 311k. The team's set up really well. Remember, I've got $1 million in the bank. So let's look ahead to Game Week 2 and if I plan on using my free transfer. So guys, moving on to Game Week 2, I am set up in a 4-4-2 formation and my team value has gone up to 99.2 million because I have had 2 price rises in my team. I have 1 million in the bank, which is going to be incredibly useful over the coming weeks. Now, unfortunately, I won't be able to help you managers who would like some money in the bank in FPL, but with the help of today's sponsor, I can potentially help you save money in real life, and that is with Pouch. Pouch is a completely free desktop browser extension that automatically finds and applies the best discount codes when you're shopping online. Just as an example of how this works, I was shopping recently on Adidas, looking at potentially picking up the new Manchester United kit and some fresh new football boots as well. As soon as I went to check out, Pouch immediately loads up 5 possible discount codes, and they actually managed to save me, as you'll see in a second, a crazy £61.50 on my order, which equated to 22% off. And Pouch works on 3,000 UK sites such as Nike, JD Sports, and Foot Asylum. And even for items which there are no live codes, you can still earn points from participating retailers, which can be redeemed for gift cards too. The best thing about Pouch is that it only takes a few clicks to install, and it's 100% free to install as well. So there's absolutely no reason to not click the first link in the description. Massively helps to support the channel, as I really do appreciate, and also you get to save on pretty much every online shop you do. So massive shout out to Pouch for sponsoring the video. Please do click the link in the description. I really do appreciate it. Moving on to Game Week 2, like I said, I do have 1 million in the bank, and the team's set up very, very nicely. So if you're new to these videos, I'm going to go through the entire team from the defenders to the midfielders to the forwards, And once I've done that, I'll discuss potential transfers not only for this week, but for future weeks as well. So starting in goal, Ramsdale did pick up a clean sheet in game week 1, and I think he is a really good keeper moving forward. I still think there is an argument to have the £4 million rotating Leicester keepers or rotate with like a Sanchez. I think if I was on a wild card, maybe I'd take a little bit of money out the keeper position and maybe go to like a Zinchenko in defense. But generally, I'm very, very happy with Ramsdale. Tends to make saves. He picked up 2 saves in game week 1. Hopefully this game week he can pick up 3 saves and keep a clean sheet. I don't think it's the best fixture from a defensive perspective. Leicester looked pretty decent in game week 1. From an attacking perspective, Maddison and Vardy looking very good. But generally, I'm pretty happy with Ramsdale in goal moving forward. Trent, I've seen a lot of people looking to sell Trent in the comments on Twitter. Please don't sell Trent. Trent is still a fantastic option. Don't be blindsided just by game week 1. Don't think that game week 1 is representative of what we're going to see in the future. Trent is the best defender to own in the game. He's arguably the most underpriced asset in the game this season. Please keep Trent. If you can take one piece of advice from me, keep Trent in your teams. Trippier is not the easiest fixture. He's the only player, I believe, in my team that has an away fixture this week. He's got Brighton away. I do have some players on the bench who I could play ahead of Trippier, but I still think there's a decent chance for a clean sheet there. I don't think it's the easiest game from an attacking perspective. We know how good Brighton are defensively, but to be honest, they looked pretty good from an attacking perspective in game week 1 against Manchester United. So I may be hopeful of a clean sheet, but I don't necessarily expect it. But Trippier was picking up some excellent positions in game week 1, and I'm still very happy that I chose him for my team. I think he is one of the better £5 million assets. I could potentially switch him to like a Kyle Walker, but I just think it's a decent fixture. He's got the attacking potential. I'm happy keeping Trippier for at least another few game weeks, and I'm very happy I started the season with him. Reece James is a tricky one because he looked pretty good in game week 1, but I do think there's a very reasonable chance that he plays right centre-back in game week 2. Now, the reason that I say that is we've seen in the past that sometimes James is put into centre-back to deal with some very fast wingers that sometimes cut inside. We've seen it before like Vinicius Jr., and I think Heung-min Son is obviously about as good as you can get on that left wing from an attacking perspective. So I think James will maybe be put at right centre-back just to deal with Son. Now, I don't know that for certain, but I think it's a reasonable assumption to make. And as a result, you're probably not going to get that many attacking returns from James if he is put as centre-back. And I also think there's a very decent chance that Spurs score. So I think you're probably looking at a 1 or 2 pointer from Reece James. But I just think if he does play right wing back, I think the attacking potential is so high, and I wouldn't say that a clean sheet is off the card. So it's almost playing him just in case he plays at wing-back or just in case Chelsea keep a clean sheet. So I'm not expecting a massive amount from James, and I don't think you should necessarily be doing so either. And I wouldn't mind if you told me you're going to bench James. This is probably one of the better weeks to do it, but I just think his attacking potential is so high when he plays at wing-back, and Chelsea are still a decent defence that I think I'm still going to play James, but I'll discuss that in a little bit more detail when I do show you my bench. And then Cancelo, arguably a good captaincy shout this week. Bournemouth at home is probably the best fixture this week for my team. I think if you don't own Haaland and maybe you don't want to captain Salah, I genuinely think if you don't mind captaining defenders, this is one of the better weeks to captain a defender. Cancelo didn't look that amazing in game week 1 from an attacking perspective, but he did still pop up a few times on the edge of the box. And we know how good the front line is for City at finishing chances. So I think you could quite easily see like a 12 or 15 pointer from Cancelo against Bournemouth. And like I said, if you're not keen on captaining Salah and you don't own Haaland, I don't mind Cancelo as a cheeky differential captaincy. Let me know down below if any of you plan on captaining Cancelo. But the back four and keeper, I don't see a real need to transfer any of these guys out. They're all at very nice price points. They all did very well for me apart from Trent in game week 1. And like I said in my game week preview video, we just haven't had enough information yet for me to say, I want to take out Trippier. I don't want to play James. I need more information. I need more game weeks of data before I can start to make logical decisions based on that. So for the time being, keeper and back four stay the same. Let's move on to the midfield. Moving on to the midfield, I do have Salah and Diaz to finish up the Liverpool triple up. As you will know if you watched my Game Week 1 team selection. Listen, I really do want Darwin in my team. Darwin looked really good in Game Week 1, accumulating a crazy XG in both the Community Shield and the first game of the Premier League. Coming off the bench, he looks so good. I do think he'll start Game Week 2. My issue is to get Darwin in for almost all of us, it's going to take 2 transfers. And you're going to have to remove probably one of Robertson and Diaz if you've got Liverpool triple up already. Robertson and Diaz are still amazing options, right? That's the reason we chose them. And you're going to probably lose another player and mess with the structure of your team just to get Darwin in. So whilst I do think Darwin arguably could be a better option than Robertson and Diaz moving forward, his expected minutes are lower. It's going to require a hit, and for me, it would require losing my million in the bank. So I'm not confident enough yet that Darwin's going to start enough minutes to warrant me taking a hit and losing my million in the bank and losing Diaz. So for now, I'm happy with my Trent, Salah and Diaz triple up, and I'm going to be keeping them for the foreseeable future. We'll discuss in the final section when we do the planning ahead part. I might be looking at potentially making a switch to Darwin, maybe game week 4 onwards. But for now, I'm very happy. Diaz did actually get a goal chalked off, and he hit the woodwork as well. So on another day, potentially he's coming away with 1 or 2 attacking returns, and we probably wouldn't even be having this discussion. The 2 cheaper boys do stay for the time being. Martinelli looked really good in game week 1. He looked good in pre-season. He looked good last year as well. And I do think they've got the pricing of Martinelli wrong. Even once Smith throws back, I think Martinelli's first choice. His underlying data is always really good. What I think he's added to his game in pre-season, and also he looked like it in game week 1, looks a little bit more creative, looks very good on the ball. His expected goals have always been very good. His creativity has sometimes lacked a little bit in comparison to Saka, but he looks creative, but he's also maintaining those great positions in and around the edge of the box. So I think Martinelli will continue to probably rise in price and look fantastic this season. If you don't own him and you have a spare slot, maybe look from game week 3 onwards when Arsenal have Bournemouth and Fulham. That might be the time to jump on Martinelli, but I do think he's a great option. I think he's probably the better option in comparison to Saka when you take into account the £2 million that you end up saving. And then Bailey's probably the only spot in my 11 which I'm not particularly happy with. The reason for that is if you look at the Aston Villa forums and a couple of newspapers that are predicting the starting 11 for Aston Villa against Everton, quite a few are predicting that Bailey's going to be on the bench. The reason for that is Everton play a back 3 or a back 5. So they play with 3 centre-backs, especially now that they've bought Cody. They're almost definitely going to continue to play with 3 centre-backs. And last season, Gerrard lined up with 2 strikers against Everton for that reason. It was like a 4-1-2-1-2, I believe, with like a narrow formation with 2 strikers. If he chooses to deploy something similar to that, due to the fact that Everton play with a back 3, we could potentially see Ings and Watkins start, and that would mean that no wingers would be starting. If they play a 4-4-2, potentially we could see Bailey start. And again, Bailey could even start as one of the front 2. There's rumours that Watkins is going to be sold from Aston Villa because he's had a bit of a bust up with Gerrard. So potentially we could even see Ings and Bailey as the front 2. But it does worry me slightly. It is a nice fixture, again, if Bailey starts, but I am slightly worried. So we've got a couple of options here, and it goes for you as well if you have Bailey. Most of us have the likes of Andreas or Nico Williams on the bench that we could play ahead of Bailey. So we could either just sub Bailey out, or we do have the option to maybe move to someone else and sell Bailey. My issue with selling him is at the moment, I don't know who I'd want to move to. I very nearly, if you did watch all of my streams and videos, I very nearly started the season with Aronson, who probably looks like a better pick now. But I'm not sure that I want to bring Aronson in yet. I think he's got a tricky fixture in game week 3, whereas Bailey has Palace, which is a slightly easier fixture. So maybe I just wait, hold out, either play Andreas or just play Bailey and hope. And then maybe in game week 3, when I've got 2 free transfers, that's when I look to move Bailey out. Let me know in the comments, what are you currently planning on doing with Bailey if you own him? Are you selling, benching, or are you just going to start him and hope that he starts? I don't want to strike fear into you and tell you that he's definitely going to be benched, but enough Aston Villa fans, forums, and newspapers all suggesting that he might be benched has just sown a little bit of doubt in my mind. So there's the potential to start someone else, which we'll look at when we get onto the bench. So let's look at the forwards now, the bench, and discuss what the team's going to be like moving forward. So the 2 strikers that I have are the same as pretty much everyone now. Even those that started with Kane have potentially already moved to Haaland. Let me know down below whether you've got Kane or Haaland, and if you've made the switch from Kane to Haaland, which I think quite a few people have. I still probably recommend doing that if it's a free transfer. If it's for a hit, maybe I still would, but it becomes a slightly trickier decision. If you want my opinion on the Kane versus Haaland debate and whether you should sell Kane for Haaland, watch my previous video, my Game Week preview video, where I discuss that in a little bit more detail. But I currently have Jesus and Haaland. I'm definitely not selling either of them. Jesus, I know a few people are looking at selling Jesus to maybe get Darwin into their team, but Arsenal have Bournemouth and Fulham in Game Week 3 and 4, and I think you're going to want Jesus anyway. And I want to drive home the point that you shouldn't be making decisions based on the outcome. And Jesus looked really good, put up some decent numbers and got into some great positions. He's looked great in pre-season as well. If you'd have just got 1 attacking return, there wouldn't be any discussion about selling Jesus. So if you are thinking about it, I personally would advise not doing it. He's got higher expected minutes than Darwin. I think he'll put up decent numbers, maybe not pushing towards Darwin, but he'll put up good enough numbers. I think he'll have good output as well. I definitely wouldn't be selling him ahead of their really nice fixtures in Game Week 3 and Game Week 4. And of course, I'm not going to be selling Haaland. As you can see, I do currently have the armband on Haaland. I would say I'm currently about 75%, 25%. I am that far in favour of Haaland. Unless we hear something from Pep, which suggests maybe if he says something about Haaland not quite being at full fitness or maybe having a knock, Pep would have to say something in the press conference, or there would have to be a piece of news for me, which makes me really doubt Haaland for me to switch back to Salah. I think Haaland's got the best fixture. He's shown unbelievable data in both of the games that we've got data from in the Community Shield and the first game of the Premier League. He's played enough minutes as well now. For me, he looks absolutely nailed on start against Bournemouth, and I think he'll be a fantastic captaincy option. Yes, there's a small chance that the likes likes of Alvarez come in and replace Haaland. I don't see any reason why Pep wouldn't use this as another opportunity to get minutes under Haaland's belt, get him to sort of integrate into the team. Yes, he might only play 70, 75 minutes because it's against Bournemouth. We expect City to wrap up the game fairly quickly, but hopefully he's done enough damage by then. So for me, Haaland is the standout captaincy choice. Let me know down below who you're currently planning on captaining out of Salah and Haaland. I guess the nice thing about potentially keeping Kane and not moving to Haaland is you've got a pretty easy captaincy shout, and it's probably going to be Salah unless you go for someone like Cancelo. So maybe that will actually help. If Salah outscores Haaland, Kane owners might actually be benefiting from the fact that they don't move to Haaland. So that is something to think about as well. The bench is actually pretty decent for this week. I'd be happy playing two of them. Archer doesn't look like he's going to be getting that many minutes at the moment. But if Aston Villa do play a front two and both Ings and Watkins are on the field, we could potentially see a slightly earlier sub for Archer in game week 2. But I think Ward looks like he is the first choice for Leicester. So we made the right choice there with our backup £4 million keeper. Andreas, like I said, looked really good. And I'll be honest, I could potentially play Andreas ahead of Bailey. I know a lot of people are talking about playing Andreas ahead of Reece James. For me, I don't think that's worth it. I think the fixture is at home for Chelsea. Like I said, if he does play wing back, his attacking potential is so good, James, that I think anyway, I'll be playing James ahead of Andreas. Bailey versus Andreas is a really tough one for me. I do wonder, let me know down below what you think of this. I do wonder if the reason I'm playing Bailey ahead of Andreas is just because of the pricing. Is it because Andreas is priced at 4.5 million that I'm thinking, do you know what, Bailey's a better option? Or is it just that Bailey is a better option? I genuinely don't know the answer to that. Like I said, let me know down below. There might be a bit of price bias here. Potentially if Andreas was like 5.5 million, I'd probably feel a lot happier starting him. So Andreas could make his way in ahead of Bailey, but unlikely ahead of James, and probably unlikely ahead of Trippier as well. And then Nico Williams is sat on the bench if I do need him, but I guess I'm unlikely to need both subs. So that is the team. Like I said, I've got 1 million in the bank, and as everyone does, I've got one free transfer. I don't currently plan on using that free transfer or that money in the bank. I currently plan on rolling, because what that would allow me to do is head into game week 3, where a couple of my players have tricky fixtures, with 1 million in the bank and 2 free transfers, which is such a good position to be starting the season with. The next section we're going to move on to is actually going to be a bit of planning ahead. I'm going to look at game week 2, game week 3, maybe ahead to sort of game week 4 and 5, and look at where I might start to use those transfers and where my team might start to change in the future. So guys, if you are new to my videos, in the final section of the team selection video every single week, we do a bit of like planning ahead, because it's important in FPL not to just look at the game week in front of you and think about how you might use your transfers in the future weeks as well. You don't want to plan too far ahead, but you definitely want to be looking at least a few weeks ahead. And in these videos, I will be using the Fantasy Football Hub My Team feature. If you are new to the channel, I've partnered with Fantasy Football Hub for this season, and they are still offering a whopping 50% discount at the moment. So the second link in the description will take you over to Fantasy Football Hub. You can get access to pretty much every feature on their site for about, I think it's as little as £1.50 per month, which is absolutely pennies when you think about how useful this could be for your season. They've actually just added as well the live rank feature on the My Team page as well, so you can get your live rank throughout the week, which is super useful too. So as you can see, for game week 2 and for the game weeks ahead, I'm actually at a 97% team rating, which is really, really high. It's actually increased. So my team is looking really good for future weeks. And for game week 2, I'm actually at 90%, which is higher than it was for game week 1. So I'm extremely happy with how I look. If I were to get 67.3 points, I'd be exceptionally happy with that. And it would be sort of approaching what we got in game week 1. So the team's very well set up for game week 2, but we've discussed that in enough detail. It is just worth noting very briefly that actually, by the way, if you're new and you haven't used this feature before, there's at the bottom left, there's a button that says Optimize. If you click that, it will sort out the captaincy benching decisions for you based on their projected points algorithm. And as you can see, both Nico Williams and Andreas are projected to get more points than Trippier in game week 2, and Bailey's actually projected to get more points than all of them. So the Fantasy Football Hub algorithm actually would suggest that, for me, the best decision is to bench Trippier and play Bailey and Andreas. So let me know down below in the comments if you agree with that. I think for me personally, though, I'm probably looking at playing Bailey and James and Trippier and benching Andreas and Nico Williams. But it's a decision to be had for sure. That actually pushes me up to 91%. But if we skip ahead to game week 3, remember, if I don't use a free transfer this week, I will go into game week 3 with 1 million in the bank and 2 free transfers. And the team's really nicely set up. So I've already optimized this. So Trippier has Manchester City in game week 3. So I'm not really going to want to be playing Trippier in game week 3. So in comes Andreas against Brentford at home. Bailey, if I still have him by that time, which I probably will, have Crystal Palace away. And I've got Nico Williams on the bench, could potentially come in for Everton away as well. So, to be honest, I don't really need to make any transfers at this point. When I look at transfers that I could potentially make, I could, if I wanted to, bring in Kulusevski at this point for Luis Diaz. But again, when I look at the fixtures, if I bring Kulusevski in for game week 3, because Tottenham have Wolves, in game week 4, Liverpool have Bournemouth, then Newcastle, then Everton, then Wolves. So, I really want Diaz for this run here, or at least want my third triple, that spot for a third Liverpool player. Yes, I could try and get Darwin in, but it's going to be virtually impossible with my current structures to get both Darwin and Kulusevski. So realistically, at this stage, I don't actually know how I would use the 2 free transfers. I may end up only using one, and that one transfer would probably be taking out Bailey and then bringing in someone else in that spot. The issue is, like I said, at the moment, the player on my watch list is probably Aronson. So if we just type in Aronson there, I'd like to bring Aronson in, but he's got Chelsea in game week 3, so I don't really want to do that in game week 3. So at the moment, I'll be honest, I don't have massive plans, but I think that's good. I think to leave yourself fairly flexible, like I say, being a dynamic manager is incredibly important to me. It's one of the things that I try to drive home every season. It's allowed me to continue to improve at the game as well. So I don't think it's necessarily an issue not having a specific plan for that. So if I bring Bailey back in, the final thing that I could do in game week 3 is, remember, I have $1 million in the bank. Right, so I could either take out Trippier for like a Diaz or another defender, or I could even take out Nico Williams. So if, for example, the Man City defense continues to look absolutely fantastic, right, I could bring Diaz in, and then it would probably be benching Andreas or Bailey. Let's just say for now, it would probably be Bailey, to be honest. So I could go double up on the Man City defense. The other thing that I could do if I wanted to, if he looks nailed on, if he plays game week 2 and looks absolutely fantastic, is, of course, we've got the option of bringing in Perisic as well. For Wolves, Nottingham, West Ham, this is the fixture run for Spurs. This is why everyone's looking at trying to get a Spurs player in. Wolves, Nottingham, West Ham, Fulham. So lots of options open. I think for me, the 2 free transfers and $1 million in the bank will be incredibly useful for game week 3. And I don't need to make a transfer in game week 2. I don't see any transfers for game week 2 which have enough upside for me personally and which I want to make. So currently looking at rolling, using at least one transfer in game week 3. But if I skip ahead to game week 4, the team looks incredibly good for game week 4. Say we do make the Perisic move and bring in Perisic. Again, I don't really even need to make a transfer in game week 4. So I've set up my team in a way where I don't need transfers. That's why I went for Haaland over Kane, if you're wondering. I thought the upside was there. I want him in game week 2. I don't want to book in transfers. It leaves me in a position where I can use luxury transfers. I can make luxury transfers to go from one high upside player to another if I want to. I'm not trying to play catch up, and that's the way that I try and set up my team for game week 1. So listen, we're looking good moving forward. If you do want to check out the My Team feature or any of the Fantasy Football Hub stuff, do check them out. Like I said, second link in the description, 50% off for the early part of the season, which is absolutely massive. Like I said, as little as £1.50, you can get access to all of the Fantasy Football Hub stuff. But this is the way that the team looks. Like I said, let me know any dilemmas down below. Let me know what your team looks like. Always interested to hear your thoughts. So guys, there you have it. That is my Game Week 2 team selection. I'm incredibly happy with the team that we chose to start the season with. I like the flexibility of having money in the bank. I'm delighted that we chose Haaland over Kane, and the team is looking really strong going into Game Week 2. As I said at the start, to support the channel, please do check out Pouch, completely free to install, only takes a few clicks, and of course, you get to save money on pretty much every online shop you do. I have been using it for about a week or 2 now, and it genuinely does save you quite a lot of money online, so do check it out. First link in the description. If you are enjoying the content, please do subscribe. Over 50% of you that watch these videos don't subscribe to the channel, so I would massively appreciate you just scrolling down, click that button, helping support me. I really do appreciate it. Until next time, guys, thank you very much for watching. Cheers. Bye-bye.